Hello, everybody, and welcome to New Lunar Radio.
Hello, Clarice. What a mighty fine day we've got going on.
It is a mighty
What?
fine Tuesday.
Tuesdays. What are we doing today?
We're going to talk about episode and stuff.
An episode, you say?
An episode of Ponies.
An episode of Ponies.
Yep.
This sounds most interesting.
Well, allow me, your host, Jay Brony, to take you on a magical mystery tour of ponies.
I shall allow this as the daylight darkle of the chat show thing. I allow this. Go on.
Alright, I guess we'll just get started then.
We have already started.
Well,
Choo-choo.
well,
The train goes onwards through the tracks.
if you're going to do this whole episode, it's going to be a long one.
It will be a long one if it needs to be.
Well,
I have to close my window.
Well, we start off at the library.
The library.
And Twilight is showing the CMC how to do stuff.
Stuff, you say? Sounds most interesting.
Yep. Sweetie Belle is practicing magic, trying to lift a broom. She says it weighs a ton, only to have Spike come in and pick it up, with his hands.
I think Spike is tricksing on these Sweetie Belle. It is a trick broom. It was electromagnetized, I think.
Scootaloo took apart a unicycle and wants Twilight to show her how to put it back together. Twilight declines, saying that she'll get the instructions, and Apple Bloom is learning the skill of potion making. She makes a plant become sentient, which is a pretty big accomplishment, I would say, but she was only supposed to make it grow. And then they just forget that they, brought a life into this world after that.
Isn't that how science works sometimes? You just go with the flow and then boom, a sentient coughing plant. Who is complaining that you have given it to life? What a ungrateful plant.
Yes.
This plant needs to be banished and learn from its misgivings.
So the CMC is then back at school, and Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons show up. Diamond Tiara was going to put on an acrobatic display that she had promised earlier, but is too tired to do so. So she brought her butler to do them for her. She takes credit for it somehow.
These ponies don't seem too bright, do they?
No.
They cannot tell the difference between a young rapscallion and a butler.
Man,
Most troubling.
clip on mic all episode.
What? Oh, that my clipping?
Yeah, a little bit.
Damn it. I can actually fix that. Nah, I'm too lazy.
So, the CMC is jealous, of course. Sweetie thinks that it'd be cool if they master their skills that Twilight is teaching them, and they'd be popular too. It ends up that Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons ask if Rarity's going to be taking Sweetie Belle to Manhattan anytime soon, so they could all hang out with celebrities. But Apple Bloom and Scootaloo remark that that's actually kind of nice, but then Sweetie Belle says no, and Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons are like, haha, we know, you suck, and throw it back in her face.
What a clever ruse.
Sweetie Belle gets mad and boasts that she and the CMC get to hang out with a celebrity already in Twilight. And this intrigues Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons, and they're very interested and want to get in on hanging out with Twilight. Sweetie Belle ends up convincing the CMC to let them come along under the notion that they'll have to actually learn something too, which, would be the death of the lazy people.
I must interject at this juncture of the episode.
Oh?
Would it not stand to reason that they could just go to the library to use the library to check out books? Is it not a library?
Nah, not anymore. It's Twilight's secret headquarters now.
I guess no one's allowed to go into the library to check out books?
Nope. I mean, it's Twilight's
What a
house.
backwards library.
Maybe it's not a public library. There are private libraries,
But is it not the Ponyville Golden Oaks Librarium?
But it doesn't have public in the name anywhere.
Damn your logic.
It's never shown to be, a public library. Just that Twilight lives there.
Hasn't it?
I don't believe so.
I recall once.
I mean, I've seen Twilight lending books to people, but that doesn't just necessarily mean that she isn't just lending them a book. That doesn't necessarily... All I'm saying is I don't think anybody can just walk in off the street. They have to, knock and be like, hey, Twilight, I think you have this book. Can I come in and look for it? Or do you know that you have it? And can you let me borrow it?
Damn your logic.
Back at the library, though, the CMC show up with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, and this surprises Twilight. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are a little bit too energetic for their own good and end up accusing Twilight of dyeing her tail, even though it's not dyed. And
what would be the purpose of dyeing a tail in such a fashion?
I don't know. So it looks cool.
Wouldn't a pony of Twilight stature just be able to magically alter the appearance of the tail in question?
I don't know. Maybe dyeing it's just easier.
Possibly. Possibly. Damn your logic!
Twilight suggests that in the future, the visits that Twilight time should just be between her and the CMC. And the plan kind of backfires on the CMC because they have to work on their talents in front of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon anyways. So they end Twilight time and go off screen, of course, and we shift back to the CMC heading back towards school the next day. And it turns out that Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons told everybody about Twilight time, and now everybody wants in on it. The side effect, of course, is that the CMC is becoming popular for knowing a quote-unquote celebrity in Twilight.
Doesn't everyone know that pony as she traverses through town?
I believe that Silver Spoons, Diamond Tiara said it best a little bit earlier that they had seen her walking around town, but she was just a normal unicorn then. But then she turned into a princess, and that's when she got special.
I think I'm starting to understand why these ponies couldn't tell the difference between a young rapscallion and a butler. This is becoming sensical. Damn your logic!
It also leads me to believe, with a scene coming up here soon, that Twilight doesn't get out of the house much anymore now that she's a princess. So, for whatever reason,
paparazzi.
But they talk about how it was a bad idea. They had just talked about how it was a bad idea to bring extra people to Twilight Time, but Sweetie Belle has a plan. Sweetie Belle doesn't invite them to Twilight Time, but she does convince Twilight to have lunch with the Cutie Mark Crusaders while the mob waits outside. Turns out it's a burger joint, and Twilight is really, really hungry.
For a pony who doesn't get out that much, apparently she sure eats.
She does sure eat, but she does also remark that it's been a while since she's been to the Hey Burger.
Good thing Hey Burger was the name. Otherwise, I would have had some dark thoughts about these burgers.
Twilight's excited to be teaching the CMC, the essence of learning and all that fun jazz. And she, tells the CMC this in no shortage of words. And CMC is, says that they're grateful for learning new skills. And then Pinky shows up, only to point out that there's people outside trying to take Twilight's picture.
Damn that Pinky ruining all the rapscallions' illogical deeds.
So they start taking pictures, only for Scootaloo to start hamming it up for the camera for no reason other than what she calls that if she doesn't smile in a picture, she looks like she's sad.
I believe you are mistaken. Ham is made out of pigs, not equine.
I wonder if she's sad because she doesn't have any parents.
Ooh, that is a good one. Ha ha, in your face, orphan. At least we now know she's not as homeless as she appears to be. That rapscallion.
You're turning less into an old-timey man and more into a robot who's trying to be an old-timey person.
My programming is not limited to one voice. I wasn't even trying to be old-timey man in the first place. Damn you!
Mm-hmm. So that Scootaloo's showboating for the camera draws attention to the windows and draws Twilight's attention to the windows, and she goes out to confront them. She ends up signing autographs, and little Pip shows up saying how it's awesome to have been to the same place that Twi was eating at since it's a regular hangout. She declines that notion and says that she was only there for the CMC, and then flies away. Pip deduces that wherever the CMC goes is good enough for a princess, so he then asks them to come to his brand new lemonade stand opening, with also the offer of free lemonade for a week. You know, that he just kind of offered after they were like, maybe.
If I were a part of the CMC group, I would take that lemonade and open my own stand. It would have no overhead cost for a week.
So them showing up to the lemonade stand opening makes it a hit, and the CMC is pampered because now they're popular for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
To exemplify this popularity, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon invite the Cutie Mark Crusaders to a pool party. When they show up, nobody else is there except for Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, and Diamond Tiara reveals that they're pretty much keeping everybody else out, and that's why it's a better party.
This party sounds like it stinketh to New Haven and back.
It pretty much reminds me of a country club.
I would know nothing about these country clubs totally. Forget what you have heard about that scandal. They're all liars.
So, once they find out that, they're pretty much becoming, snobs like Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoons, they excuse themselves to go to Twilight Time. But Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon ask if they can come along, and they say no. And, well, it causes the mob to go into a frenzy. So they try to beat the crowd to Twilight's house.
Good old violence. This pleases me, as I find it is the most effective solutions in this kind of situation.
So the mob end up beating them there somehow, mostly scooter power.
The counter violence.
But Twilight understands, as she was only trying to give them an opportunity to have the maximum amount of time together. But she's willing to teach everyone. And Spike made nachos. But not quite enough nachos. She ends up, the crowd is like, thanks, Princess Twilight, you're the best, woo! But she wants the crowd to be grateful for the Cutie Mark Crusaders for sharing their time. And then Lil Pip, the do-gooder he is, spills the beans, inadvertently, that they'd been getting favors because they're Twilight's friend. Twilight, of course, is not too pleased and gives them a chance to prove that they wanted to be there to learn by showing off their skills. Turns out that they forgot to bring the things that they were working on to work their skills, but they try their best to make do with things they find around, including Little Pip's scooter from outside. Apple Bloom gets an apple, and of course, Sweetie, the broom was Twilight's to begin with, so the broom's still there. They all fail equally spectacularly because they didn't really practice at all, and Twilight says Twilight Time is over. She kicks pretty much everybody out after Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon make fun of the CMC for not being part of Twilight's entourage, but in the end, nobody wins because everybody gets kicked out. As the CMC are going to leave, they inadvertently show off their skills by doing slightly less grandiose things than they did when they were trying to show them off before. Scoots does end up fixing the scooter, but, she takes a second less hurried and rushed crack at it. Apple Bloom grows a little flower, and Sweetie Belle uses her magic to levitate it into Twilight's hair. Twilight ends up giving them a second chance, just as Spike shows up with more nachos for the now non-existent crowd. And to end out the episode, we get to see that Sweetie Belle writes in the shared journal, and we get the lesson. Pretty much it's to never ride on the coattails of your friends. And remember that your friends are special for being one thing and one thing only, that they're your friends.
Friends can only be good at one thing.
Being friends.
And that is what friends are for. Pretty faces.
So, overall, I think that it was a pretty good CMC episode.
Surely better than that last one.
No song. I kind of missed, music. We'd had lots of episodes with music here for a while, so...
You have gotten spoiled, my friend. And that is all you're good at, being a friend.
But overall, pretty good episode. I liked it. It's not my favorite. It's just I count it in the just another episode in the season.
Yes, it is another episode. Your powers of deduction are unparalleled.
Yeah, but it's not I wouldn't say that it's a standout one. I would just say that it's just another episode.
It hath no cadence.
There's no cadence, no.
Damn their choices. Damn them straight to season 5.
Full life consequences.
No, wait. Damn them straight to Rainbow Rocks.
Oh no, not Rainbow Rocks.
Oh no, let's all panic. At least they haven't made a spin-off series.
Yeah.
Yet. Damn them.
So, I guess that brings us into news for the rest of the episode. And it pretty much breaks down to some episode synopsises and con news.
You cannot con me, Jabroni.
Well, first we'll synopsis you with a synopsis for episode 20.
Damn your wordplay.
And the episode title is For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils. And the synopsis is Sweetie Belle ruins a costume for one of Rarity's clients on purpose, and Luna visits her in her dreams.
All that Luna and her psychological warfare. Damn it for not being cadence. Damn them.
Yep. It's too bad it's the best pony princess.
Damn your bad opinions and your song liking and calling best pony princess to someone who isn't even best pony princess. Damn it all.
And we have another episode synopsis revealed here, second one, 2 of 2, as it were, in this episode.
That equates to one whole. Your mathematical training is complete.
And the episode title is Leap of Faith. It's episode 21. The last episode was episode 20, by the way, in case I didn't mention that. But this is episode 21, Leap of Faith. Applejack is doubtful of the Flim Flam brothers' cure-all tonic. Granny Smith tries it, and it seems to work.
This is going to lead into another bad song, isn't it?
Flim Flam are back. And yes, I do agree that their song was the weaker of the songs in season 2. So
horrible.
And I'm not looking forward, to another one of their songs. But the characters are interesting nonetheless, so it should be interesting to see how that episode turns out. You would think that people would be able to see through their turncoatism the first time, but whatever.
These ponies do not learn lessons. Despite the whole show being about learning lessons.
So
Pray they never meet those tricksy hobbitses.
So they can learn lessons?
Damn them.
So we have some con news. First, here that Silly Philly Studios is heading towards Midwest Media Expo. I believe that I don't know that that's actually a PonyCon. Oh yeah, it looks like it was. Japan PonyCon is announcing Andrea Libman, voice of Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy. And our friend Andy Price is going to be at BabsCon and BronyCon.
Dost thou just mention BabsCon?
Maybe.
I think thou just mentioned BabsCon.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
BabsCon!
Oh, no.
Every episode we have to mention BabsCon. Except for like that once, but that's okay because that episode of House where it actually was lupus. We're allowed that one episode.
Yep, that one.
That's one single episode.
And last but not least, Katie Cook will also be at BabsCon. Or, not BabsCon, sorry.
BabsCon?
BronyCon.
I think you are mistaken, sir.
BronyCon.
There you go.
And that's the last bit of con news.
Are we through?
I believe that brings us to the end of the episode.
Unless
Unless you have something more to add.
I do not.
Alright then. I guess that means we're done.
And now on to the weather.
No weather.
There has to be weather.
Nope.
Damn you.
Say goodbye, Darkle.
Damn you. Goodbye.
It's snowing outside. See, now I've made him cry.
Damn you. Damn you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.